Hello and welcome to Fanatic, the first episode in a while. Apologies for that. I have been having an ongoing quest to try and get an interview that could be really interesting. And it was always very close to happening, so I put everything else off. And it still hasn't happened yet, so fingers crossed I'm still going to get that one. Instead, I decided to move forward some other things we were going to do. And on this episode, we have got a Warhammer hero, Chuck Moore, just on to chat about the stuff he gets up to, basically. I think he's an interesting guy, and there's a lot going on, so I feel that it's something that I would be interested in listening to, so why not put it up here, and hopefully other people are interested as well. I'm not going to muck around much with the intros to these shows now, I don't think. Just a reminder that if you want to support the shows we do, then there's you can purchase your toys from Element Games if you're this side of the pond using the link in the show notes, or go through the link on the website, theimperialtruth.com, and that gives us a kickback from everything you buy from them, which is, as I say, really handy and lets them know that their sponsorship of the show is working. And for those super keen, we also have a Patreon as well. You can find the links for that in the show notes if you feel like tipping us, basically, for making the shows we make. And of course, you can tell your friends, if you enjoy the show, to come listen to it. That's the easiest one to do, and is still extremely useful, and we thank anyone who does it. But as I say, I'm not going to talk much. We're going to just jump straight into the interview with Chuck. I'd like to welcome Mr. Chuck Moore to the show. Hello, Chuck. How you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm grand, thank you. Anyone who is involved in Age of Sigmar online might be aware of your name. Certainly on Twitter. Might have seen some Taylor Swift GIFs being put around the Twitterverse. It's a popular thing for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I toss those around, a couple times an hour usually.
Yeah, it's all good fun. Essentially, so I want to get interesting people on to talk about their hobby and people who are involved in different aspects of it as well. And we've met before in America. We talked on Twitter, and we finally got to actually sit and properly chat at Adepticon this year, which was great fun.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got to face-to-face interaction, kind of uninterrupted for at least 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. Which at Adepticon is pretty hard to do sometimes.
It is, absolutely. Yeah, you've got to take yourself away from it all to find that time. But you, as I said, we chatted on Twitter. I've been very aware of the stuff you've done, thanks to listening to Age of Sigmar podcast and seeing you on Twitter for all your different things. Some people might have seen your name attached to the Warhammer Heroes announcement.
Yeah, that was very, very humbling to receive that, especially being relatively new, I guess, to come into the big worldwide scene of Warhammer whenever Age of Sigmar really began. But just it's hard to put into words to know that many people are enjoying what I'm doing and find it worthwhile enough to submit my name, let alone to also be selected for that title.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to the start then. So you've been hobbying a while, have you?
Yeah, I dabbled a little bit in 40K back in 6th edition, I believe. I might have started getting in, picked up my first Cypher model, learned about the Dark Angels.
Sure.
The hobby didn't really kick in for me, even just locally with my little club that I was a part of here, until 8th edition fantasy, whenever I received a battalion box of High Elves, and I've always been an elf fan, so it took me a couple years to get that painted up, and then finally make it out to a club day, and that's really when it kicked in, and then I fell in love with it, the community around the area, and just the game itself, and learning to play, developing strategy, and trying to get better at painting as time went on, which thankfully does happen just from doing it over and over again. But yeah, that 8th edition fantasy is when it really kicked into high gear for me. That this is a hobby that I'm gonna carry with me for a long time, probably, and now clearly for the rest of my life.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So whereabouts are you? Midwest or are you further east?
I'm close to the Midwest,
Sure.
but actually I'm near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I'm still considered East Coast.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think because of Adepticon and because of the people that we both know in the hobby, I've always associated you with the Midwest in that little group. But yep.
Yeah, it's great to be associated with them on any level. They're all great people. So yeah, I'm just on the outside looking in. If you want to go by hard borders.
Sure, yeah. And so involved, enjoying the game. When did you kind of get onto Twitter and the internet and finding out more about it? Was that pretty soon after getting in?
It was actually after the end times, because I really kind of like became more involved locally, running some small events, participating in my club a lot more, and eventually kind of taking a lead role in my club during the end times. And it was booming around here. Everyone really enjoyed it, what was going on. Even the crazy rules were having a good time. And then it was kind of when Age of Sigmar dropped. And as everyone knows, the same old story. People just left. People were just like, nope, I don't like Age of Sigmar. I don't like these little rules. They didn't like any of it. And around my area, there was myself for probably about 9 months. I'd show up at club days once a week with 2 armies, just trying to get people to play. And oftentimes I'd just sit there and watch people play 40K or Mailto or X-Wing, whatever game they decided to dive into instead of continuing on with fantasy. But that was around that time that I think the Heelan Hammer podcast, which I listen to regularly, talked about the community on Twitter was still there, and I decided to jump on and just connect with folks because I really liked Age of Sigmar, and I was enjoying playing with my models still, and was curious where that game was going to go. And really the Twitter scene is what kind of helped keep me motivated, and sharing ideas in order to keep trying to get the game going around in my local area. Which I mean now it's crazy, it's booming. I could probably get a game in every day if I really wanted to. So it's it's humbling to think about just 3-4 years ago that couldn't find anyone who wants to play this game, and now events are selling out left and right. Everyone wants to play it or wants to hear about it. So many different ways to play. It's great.
Awesome. Yeah, and you go to a few events, travel around a bit.
Yeah, this past year and a half has been crazy. I went over to England for Realms at War, and of course to visit Warhammer World and all the friends I could see over there. I go to Adepticon every year, Nova every year. I also do. I'm the TO for the GT and the doubles at Nova these past couple of years, and will be again next year. So that's always a fun bit of work, but it's well worth it. And then I've been. There's the Ren 4 events that happen over in Ohio, about 3.5 hours from me. I hit those up. I went to Wapaka this past year. It's been crazy, and I have a large bucket list of events to hit up, like Midwest Meltdown, the Boys GT, of course Blood and Glory. I'd like to get to one of the US heats as well as the UK heats. So it's looking like I might need to take a year and kind of relax, but then jump back in and travel as much as we can.
Yeah, it's so hard to fit everything in time-wise as much as anything else. Even if you've got the money, it's hard to find that time to do everything you want to do, isn't it?
Right.
But it's
right. Yeah.
It's surprisingly more manageable than I think a lot of people think it is. If you're sensible with. You can't do everything in 1 year, maybe, but as you say, you came over to England. If you plan it right, and maybe if you're coming, to England, when I go to Adepticon the first few times, I had a holiday around Chicago for a few days beforehand, and you can build it into what you're doing, and if you book early enough, flights can be fairly, cheap, relatively, and sharing rooms, things like that. It all helps.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I went over to Realms at War in Cambridge, planned it with wife came with me. Obviously, we spent a couple days in London, and surprisingly, with how great the rail system is over there, from my experience, I went up to Nottingham in the morning and came back that night to London, and that's it was very easy, very simple. And then a couple days in Cambridge too, and then a couple more days in London. So we made a holiday out of it, and and my wife actually, she loved it. She hung out for one of the days at Realms at War, and she absolutely enjoyed just how many people came up to her, just asking her about how's the trip, how you doing, can I get you anything? Like everybody that people that I didn't even meet yet technically at the table were talking to her, and then I'd meet them at the table to play the next round, and they'd be like, "Oh, I met your wife, she's wonderful," and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Chuck."
Yeah, I think.
But it just, yeah.
I think my wife's found a similar thing helping out at events. I think she was quite surprised by how normal and nice people are. And I suppose there's a little bit of help in that Realms at War's a narrative event, isn't it? Extremely narrative. And yes. The Heresy events I run a narrative, so there's no there's you can sometimes get tension at the top ends of competitive events, and that tends to be much less common at narrative events, shall we say?
Very much so. Although, I guess it's a little anecdote from this past year at Nova. I did random tables for all the pairings for the GT, and I had a lot of people come up to me after and say how much they loved it, and I loved it too, because it kind of mellowed everything out. Like, there was still, tense games, people playing for the top awards, but when you're playing next to other people who are just there having fun and just talking mostly, and just not really, because they're on the bottom tables, they're not as stressed. It really helps bring down the level of tension on those first top tables. It's kind of like spread out evenly throughout, and really, I had no real tough questions at Nova this year, and the top tables, they were always great. I don't think a top table asked me a single question, and if they did, it was nothing more than, "Hey, we can't find this in the rules. What's your call?" And it was nothing that would really affect the game, really.
Sure, yeah, so. Absolutely. I think Age of Sigmar's done quite well in that respect, in terms of being on top of the FAQs. 40k, I can't quite talk about it the same way, but certainly know that Age of Sigmar is fairly well written in terms of not asking too many questions, because they've been dealt with in FAQs. So that does help.
And a lot of times, I helped out Alex at Adepticon this past year as one of the people that volunteered to just, one, I did it to help him out because he just had his child, and two, I was trying to learn as much as I could to help improve Nova by seeing what a experienced TO does and how they handle things. And the best thing I've seen that he did was, what do the rules say? Because 9 times out of 10, it's in there, and we've all missed it. I've missed rules at a table where I'm like, I've been playing this army for a year and a half now, and I keep forgetting to do this one rule. And whether it's negative to me or a benefit to me, it's just the nature of wargaming. We always tend to forget rules, no matter how simple they are.
Yeah, absolutely, and or not read the whole rule. Stop when you think you've understood it, and that's a classic one that Jervis was talking about on the podcast. I think. Was it Jervis? Or someone was talking about Jervis saying it was read the whole rule. But yeah, certainly, what do the words say? What does the rule say? Is a classic answer to give. And my wife actually thinks I'm rude when I say that sometimes. But I'm like, if I answer their question, they will come back to me with the next question. If I turn around and tell them to read their rule book before coming back to me, then they'll remember that next time and check their rule book. As well as solving the problem without having to delve into it myself. So it's a good thing, and I'm as much a culprit as anyone else, where sometimes you just want the quick answer rather than search for yourself. You're like, oh yeah, Chuck will know that, I'll ask him. But yeah, it's bad form, but we get lazy at times. It's understandable.
We all do.
Yeah. So when did you start getting involved with Nova then? Was that have you run any other events before helping out at Nova?
So really, local smaller events, typically more narrative events in my area for my club. Sometimes we'd bring in, attract a few more distant people. But I went to Nova, what was that, 3 years ago? And I just played, and came out of that event thinking it was an okay event. It was well run. I can't deny that, the gentlemen who were running it at the time. But what bummed me out is they weren't doing requirements for painted models, square bases, which to me, like that's what I wanted at that level of event, like at a club event. Like even today, if I have a club member comes up and it's on painted models or square bases, like, yeah, sure, we're just, let's play. No big deal. Like, everyone gets the hobby at their own pace. But to me, Nova, it's one of the big three in America with LVO, Adepticon, and Nova. I was like, kind of wanted it to hold the highest standards, I guess, for hobby. And admittedly, in my blog post after that, I was like, I was kind of salty about it, but like I said, the event was well run. I just didn't like that one aspect. So then the following year, got a message from Aaron Boston, who really was the one that kind of got AOS started at Nova. He did a lot of work, and then he's finding all the people to help manage things. And the TO from the prior year had other obligations, I think a wedding of sorts, so he wasn't going to be able to do it. And it was kind of one of those things where Aaron came to me and said, hey, you didn't like some things from last year. Why don't you put your money where your mouth is?
Yeah.
So I did. I stepped up, and like I said, I ran it that year. Admittedly was unprepared for the level it took to run those events, and kind of, learned a lot of lessons that year. And thankfully the community up there that attends Nova were very open to talk to me and listen to why I did things I did, and say this is what we'd like. And really where I was at was afterwards, I'm like, this is an event I'm running for these people. Of course, I'll put my own twists on it, my own likes, but I wanted to make sure I ran an event that everyone there wanted to come play in. So then that helped my planning for this year. And then this year too, like, the event ran great. Everyone was wonderful. Had a issue with the BCP app right at the end that messed up a little bit awards. I said it to me, it was the equivalent of, running that 99-yard, kickoff return in American football to just drop the ball at the one.
Sure.
And go, oh yeah. Boy. But everyone was pretty understanding. Like I said, but that's another lesson learned that I can take now and go to improve next year for everybody, which is my plan to, there's always going to be something to learn and something to do better at. So, but like I said, I'm very blessed with the community that's in that area, because no one's really even concerned or talking about it. Like, everyone's just like, yeah, it was a great event. Let's not worry about the one thing that happens. Like, I say it was the BCP app error, but I mean, I'm the TO. I'm going to take full responsibility on that. So, and then just plan to make sure that doesn't happen next year, and already working on next year's Nova, to ensure it's even better than this year. So
that's I think that's all can be asked. I think most communities, wargaming communities around the world, understand that we're not professionals running these events. Not many people are getting paid to run them. A full-time job's worth of money to make it worthwhile in the monetary sense. And when 99 things are correct and one thing's wrong, there's some slack that can be given there. And it's not like you've just left it. You've gone back and solved that issue. Of course, when you're carrying, in your analogy as a returning that kick, you're going to be thinking about that final yard drop and not the fact you've made 90 yards up the pitch, because that's the way we work as humans, isn't it? So it's it's one of those things. What kind of size team? How many players did you have, and what kind of help did you have for Nova?
So for the GT, we had 97 players. I think it was close to that for the doubles as well. But I had some great help this year. A lot of people willing to offer to help. So there's Matt Hayward. He's my co-TO. He kind of had led the operational end of it. There's Neil LaRocha and his wife came out to help. He's from the Ohio area. A couple of my club members helped, specifically the girl named Jamie. Her last name's escaping me right now. How it goes. Yeah, and then Garrett, who actually develops the BCP app, he was there, and he was helping out the whole time. And a couple other people here and there like helped pass out papers, but that was kind of the core team. And I'd be remiss if I forgot Martin Orlando.
Sure.
I almost forgot him. I feel bad, but he was a big help, especially with the getting the basic paint judging down. And then actually to the next step, once again, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Vince Venturella does our final top painting. So we chose 12 out of the participants this year. And he did the final judging, and he takes notes on how they can improve. So he really goes above and beyond to help make sure that part of the event succeeds. And the top 12 are super appreciative to get notes from such an amazing painter on, like, hey, this is where I think you could improve. And he always offers to them to reach out to him directly. He'll talk more. So it's, I think that's a very unique thing that that Nova has, that the fact that Vince is so willing to do that for us. And I guess I'm always so happy every year that so many people are wanting to help, and I think that team's going to be the same team next year. Give or take a few people who might want to play, and then I'll swap a few people out.
Yeah. But that's awesome. Just for those who aren't aware, Vince has won Golden Demons and awards at various painting events, including Gen Con. He teaches with CK Studios, and he does the what's his YouTube channel called now?
Warhammer Weekly.
Warhammer Weekly, that's the one. And there's lots of painting on there as well. So, a very accomplished guy, and very good at getting knowledge across as well, which is not always, they don't always go hand in hand. But yeah, great to have a number of people there that are willing to, put in the effort, which is always amazing. Always nice when someone challenges you to put your money where your mouth is, I suppose. Did at any point you think, I wish I hadn't said that about Nova previously?
No. Like I said, it's Mike Brandt, who runs the whole convention, and is with his mother and an amazing team. They've been incredibly welcoming to the Nova family, and it's been a really joyful experience to be able to see this end and be able to provide an improving event each and every year for so many great people to come out and play. Like I said, the community that attends Nova, they're wonderful. They really care about the game. They're very easygoing. And I said, I'm getting to know them more and more. They're getting to know me. So there's absolutely zero regrets in taking this on. Like, sure, last year I was a little bit overwhelmed. I wasn't fully ready, but it's that's the nature of it. Sometimes you just have to dive in and do your best, and then just make it better the next year. Yeah,
absolutely. And you've started with smaller events and jumped up to this, but at the end of the day, there's no. I see people saying, "What can I do?" And well, if you run a 20-person event or even a 10-person event, the basics are there. It doesn't quite prepare you for 100 people coming in at the same time, and the pressure that you put on yourself when that happens and everything else. But the principles are the same, and you just have to kind of swallow it. And after that first year, then you know the score, don't you? Yeah.
And like I said, I think one of the biggest things of this year was helping out at Adepticon, just to see how Alex ran things, to learn learn what to do. And the biggest thing that I'm bad at, because I always tend to do everything I can myself, is just delegate more and more. Yeah. So I had a bigger team, and this year I felt like I felt like I was standing around waiting to answer a question that never came.
Sure.
Because they handled everything. They did a great job. And whereas last year, which the one thing I guess I could give advice on is, last year I was ready for something to go wrong at every single moment, and that is the most draining thing.
Yeah.
So you can't worry about that. You just need to handle what's going on right now. If something comes up, you handle it then. I know my time at Nova as the TO and even helping at Adepticon, even if someone comes up to me for a ruling on something and the rules aren't clear on it, like, if I give an answer, I never hear, no one ever argues. They're just like, okay, this is how we're going to play it, because they know that's how we're going to play it for the rest of the event. And then the next step is to make sure that, everyone that participates know. But I feel the people at Nova know, they're very willing to come to me and talk to me after the fact. So if I got a ruling wrong, they'll play it that way the rest of the event. And then whenever the time's suited, they'll come over and, at the lounge or online later and just say like, oh, here's an FAQ we missed. And like, they do it with the concept of wanting me to be better for them so we can have better events.
Sure. And there must be an element of the gamers. So there must be an element of you as an organizer creating an atmosphere that's like that. And I know Nova create an atmosphere where gamers respect what's going on and respond to anything that's given from an organizer as well. Yeah.
It's a good atmosphere once you can get that kind of established, that people aren't afraid to talk to you, but they're not gonna fight you at the table over a ruling, because they know you're going to do your best to just make it a fair ruling.
Yeah,
and follow the rules.
Absolutely. And I know I make light at my events now when I run them. I'm like, okay, if you've got a question, please look it up first. I will tell you to do that. If you've still got a question, come to me. Or I've usually got a spare player there at least. Come to the spare player. You can come to Emma if you want. She's going to give you a ruling. It won't be right, but you'll have to, and we make light of that fact in there to kind of chill everyone out. But the whole point is that the onus is on you guys to do it. But if we step in, we'll make a decision, crack on. And we find very few issues in that respect. Once you've laid something out, you put an expectation out there. I think the problem for some organisers is they don't have that expectation set early. Mm-hmm. And then it can cause an issue when all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't think you'd do that down the line. We like to know what's going on, don't we, as humans?
Right. Yeah. And like I said, it's all about taking the feedback and learning too. So, admittedly, if I have one critique of myself is I can be soft on rulings.
Sure.
So I have people around me who are willing to be hard on rulings.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
So, like it's because sometimes there might be a hard and fast rule, and it's you just have to know where your weaknesses are at. That I try to be fair and balanced, but sometimes the ruling isn't going to be fair and balanced. So that's why you keep people around you to keep that mindset in you as you need to make rulings. But like I said, Age of Sigmar is a great place, and those hard rulings typically don't really even come up. So
awesome, yeah, that is a big thing. Understanding where you're strong, where you're weak, which way you lean in certain circumstances. None of us, we've all got those strengths, weaknesses, and prejudices sometimes. That's a strong word for what they are, but we all lean certain ways. But if you know that, then you can take that into account when you're making that judgment or whatever it is. What's interesting is you've gone to Adepticon and to help to understand how to run your events better. And one of your criticisms of yourself is that you don't delegate enough, you do too much yourself. Where it could be said that Gonzalez, bless him, has exactly the same issue. Do you think there's a trait maybe in people who run events? Because I think I'm the same, though I'm terrible organisationally. I still want to be involved at every point.
I could kind of see that. It's that self-examination going on now.
Yeah.
But
maybe. I mean, there's probably plenty. Yeah, probably plenty of people out there who are quite happy not to. But I suppose if you have a strong vision in mind of what you want to achieve, then no matter what you're doing, it can be difficult to rely on other people to do that. And I suppose as your team grows, you're working with people you're from your gaming area. Some of those people, and I'm sure you and Martin Orlando and Vince have talked, plenty over time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to guess that you then have more of a kind of a willingness to let them get on with the things because you know that you're on the same page. Right, and
like I said, it is knowing what everyone has as far as a strength and weakness. What can they do? What can they not do? Like I said, including yourself. So, when Martin came on and he said, "Hey, I'm going to go start doing paint judging," and he's a phenomenal painter. Like, yeah, have at it. you will do this fair. You'll do this right, and we'll go from there. So
awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So did you play at Adepticon at all, or did you just help out all weekend?
This past year, I just helped out. I did take one day just to kind of hang out, which surprisingly was probably it was rare to do, because usually you go to these events, we want to play games, we want to do everything, but just walking around and seeing everybody's games was phenomenal. But even that day, I did help check in lists for the doubles, even though I was supposed to just be hanging around. But yeah, I had a few pickup games, obviously, but yeah, just mostly helping and hanging out this past year at Adepticon.
Yeah, awesome. I've been there and done that. I helped out checking lists 2 years ago when I went. It's like, yeah, it's my free day. Yeah, no, cool, jump in. These events, particularly events at cons, there's so much stuff going on. Different days. No one wants to be wasting time at a con. So having people to help out is really useful for those people. So that's your fairly new journey into big event running. You've been running a blog for a while. When did that start?
I think I'm about 3.5 years now, or maybe 2.5 years. It's started in January. It was originally called the Realm Gate blog, and I haven't fully let go of that moniker, but I kind of just rebranded everything to my Strength Hammer naming convention. Sure. But yeah, the blog just started out as a way to just share thoughts and opinions back whenever there wasn't many people doing anything in Age of Sigmar, and it was just that online small group in Twitter, and then we slowly grew and grew and grew. But there was a gentleman, his name's Big Jim. He is on Twitter. He has a new podcast now. I can't recall the name, unfortunately, but he convinced me to go ahead and just write. And if you read those earlier posts, which are still up, you can tell I'm not a fabulous writer at all. But I enjoyed it. It was a fun way to kind of keep track of what I was doing and show people what was going on, and just kind of go from there. And it's grown. It's definitely not the biggest blog out there, but it's a piece that I have of this hobby that I can call my own, and put up thoughts and ideas, and it's been really fun. And if you look at my more recent posts, you'll see that I have improved as a writer over these past couple of years by writing once, twice, 3 times a week.
Sure, yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those things that just by doing you get better. 10,000 hours and all that.
Yep,
definitely makes a difference. Did you get much response to that blog going forwards? It's weird. Like, my podcasting is my blog, I suppose. That's why I do multiple podcasts. Probably similar reasons why you do your blog and everything else as well. A, we love talking about the games, but B, there's something more to it. There's a connection in there, and I think that only builds once you start getting kind of connections within, like, the media. It sounds pretentious to put it that way, but the media circles. So obviously you've got guest things on that. You've got interviews with people, all kinds of stuff. Does it just drive you in that way? Is it?
It does. It's an interesting balance, and I will say, the blog, if you go to it right now, I'm not sure when this podcast might be going up, so I don't want to date it, but as of recording right now, I'm taking a short break, kind of like going off social media a little bit, holding off on a blog a little bit, just to kind of refocus some energy at home, get some stuff around the house fixed up, and give my wife the attention she deserves, because I've spent so long preparing for Nova. Posting there twice a week is nice. The consistency, I think, is great to help people see what's going on and connect to it. But it has grown over time. Like, that number keeps going up and up about readers. It's always fun when someone comes up to me in person, says like, "Oh yeah, I read your blog, I really like it." I'm just like, I didn't know, like, it's still hard to believe that anyone would want to read my lore pieces, or whenever I talk about like motivation and fitness on there, or see just what I'm generally painting. So I'm a tabletop painter. I'm working to improve that right now, but I tend to always be like a jack of all trades. So when people really enjoy my work, it makes me feel good and makes me want to just give them more and more and more, and just keep making the blog and better, and then expand out. Trying to dabble in podcast recording, try to dabble in YouTube, trying to figure out what's my medium. Like, is it blogging, or should I try something else? So, but yeah, it is a feedback loop where you keep wanting to do it as you do it. And it's actually, it's been hard taking a break from the blog, and it's only been a week.
Sure.
It's like, I just want to type about my thoughts, but it's like, no, just relax. Take a month off, relax.
Yeah, absolutely. So how long have you been going to Adepticon, or to the wider events? Is it about that 3 years?
It's okay. That 3 year mark.
So,
yep.
So that's been with your blog out there, but obviously these things pick up over time, and certainly your Twitter kind of presence has grown over time. Have you seen that change in those 3 years? How has that been for you?
Surprisingly, I think Twitter, if I do have a quote unquote medium, it's especially over this past year of all this traveling, it is Twitter, and trying to get Instagram. I'm not sure how to use Instagram well, so that's that's there, but it's really just what I post on Twitter. It's kind of the thought that I'm more of just wanting to be like a Warhammer socialite, travel around, take pictures, and just hang out with people more than much else. Yeah. And people seem to just really like that. Like I said, I had a couple people come up to me at Nova, just talk about how they really like my videos of me lifting weights, short little snippets, and they said it's very motivating, which I'm always surprised and humbled by, because I don't really put them out there as motivational. It's just like, hey, this is what I'm doing, just me being me right now. And they're just like, it's motivating to get me to the gym. I'm like, okay, well then talk to me. Like, let's actually work on motivation. Let's do this. So I'm thinking like my best way of putting content out there is just through Twitter. I think, as odd as that seems.
It's a very immediate thing. If someone follows you once, they see what you're up to. Whereas you put a blog post up, people have to go to that blog, or they have to download a podcast, or click on YouTube. So you almost have no choice with Twitter. If you follow someone, you're going to see their tweets, which is one of the beauties of it. Unfortunately, sometimes it's one of the tougher things about Twitter. So have you found, because I know my journey through, so I went to Adepticon, my first one 5 years ago, I think it was, and Twitter was my main thing there, and I walked into the Warhammer room as it was and knew half the people, I think, there through Twitter mainly. But around the hall, after Eleanor had been out, and so I got literally the odd person kind of saying something. And now when I go to Adepticon, all these years later, I walk into the 40k room, less so, but the Heresy room and the Warhammer room, and walking around, and people are there who recognise, who've listened at points to the shows or what have you, or know me from various things, or just from being at Adepticon. How's that been for you? Obviously, we talked about not having much time at events. How has that been for you? I suppose it's a really open question there. But leading into coming to Raw and everything else, could you have foreseen where you are now 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
It's hard to think about. Like, it's like those little life choices you make along the way. Like, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't have met my wife. It's like, if I didn't jump on Twitter because there's no one around my area doing Age of Sigmar, I wouldn't have gotten to know everyone in the Age of Sigmar community. But yeah, when I went to Adepticon my first year, it was very much, initially I felt like a little bit like an outsider, because I knew everybody and they sort of knew me, but my picture wasn't everywhere as some of the other people were. But I'd walk up like, hi, I'm Chuck Moore, and there's that pause, and I'd be like, this is my Twitter handle. And they're like, oh, okay. And then that connection immediately happens. You associate it
Sure.
together. And then I did work with Tyler Emerson at the time with getting a meeting going with Games Workshop and some people within the American scene. And then that number actually increased at the event because there was a few people missed that I just wasn't fully aware of about getting a meeting together with everybody at Adepticon, and that really helped because then we all got to meet all the faces from Games Workshop we knew, meet each other, and then really from there it was not only did they have like the Twitter handle, but they they saw I was trying to help make this community better too. So it really helped to blossom from there.
Sure.
And then working on the community pack of everybody, I got to be friends with a lot of guys across the country, guys and gals. So it really like that wouldn't have happened if I didn't decide to just jump on Twitter and post up pictures of my elves or whatever's going on at the time.
Sure. Yeah.
So, It's like a kind of an open answer back for your open question.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I suppose one thing is, so do you still, when you're with your blog, do you still go back and look at how many people are looking at my blog these 3 years later?
I'll check it maybe once every 3 or 4 months.
Sure.
I admittedly found myself at some point around last year, like kind of overly concerning myself with that.
Yeah.
And that's not what the blog was about for me. The blog was originally meant just for me, a way to give everyone a chance to see what I'm doing, maybe see my club a little bit, and go from there. And that's really what I wanted to maintain. So I don't stress about numbers because I think that can just be a trap. For the longest time I didn't even do reviews on my blog, but a lot of people have asked. So I'm doing some reviews now.
Yeah, I kind of hoped for that answer. So a while ago, they changed the way that podcast numbers are done, and basically they have to be the downloads don't count. It's got to be individual downloads that are listened to and everything else. And people's podcast numbers just fell through the floor to give a true reflection of number of listeners. And it was like, wow, okay, that's shocked me. And then I realised that number doesn't change the interactions I have.
Right.
Online, whether it's events, whether it's emails, whether it's people posting on Facebook, on the show thread, or what have you. And I just think sometimes it's too easy to look at those numbers as a value, as a sense of value. And actually, there's value in for me in podcasting, and for you for writing your blog from a personal level. Mm-hmm. And then there's value you get from knowing that people read it, and then there's value from people, engaging with you, and they're very different things.
Right, and it's that mindset that I would rather know that I've connected to one person on a very deeper level and develop a friendship out of it than 300,000 people reading some half-hearted review I did about a battle tome I'm never going to play. Because, like I said, and some people have the skills to review absolutely everything and do it in a worthwhile manner. I know personally, I don't. So, like, even the reviews I have been doing, I'm reviewing the things that I'm buying because I just want to review what I want to do.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I feel if I review Daughters of Cain, which is my primary army that I love, if I review that, I'm going to give it love and attention and detail. But if I was doing a Tzeentch battle tome, my review would probably be, there's some bird demons, they're blue. Would anybody like this book? Because I'm never going to use it. So knowing that I'm reviewing something that I like really motivates me, as opposed to trying to review something that doesn't have a passion in my heart. So I try not to worry about reviewing those, because I know it's not within my skill set to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. There's it's finding we're not doing this for jobs. So when you start doing that, you'll find that it becomes harder to sit down and either write or podcast or whatever you're going to do. The job becomes that much more difficult. But
Mhm.
all good. You've mentioned a few times there your fitness, aspects of what you like to keep fit and work out. Is that something you've always done? Always been relatively fit?
I mean, I did some athletic sports, baseball and wrestling in high school, and in college I didn't really do any sports. I kind of went to the gym, but eventually that went away. It was really about 2 years ago. I didn't really talk about this much online because it wasn't really a needed thing, but I had what was called a syncope episode, which was kind of like a sudden drop in blood pressure.
Sure.
Scared my wife half to death.
Yeah.
You pass out. It kind of resembles a seizure on some levels, which that was a whole other thing with the doctor immediately trying to say I had a seizure, and then even though that was just a misdiagnosis. So that was a fun 3 months trying to get my license back in the state.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
But really what it did though is it made me realize that, I need to make sure I take better care of myself. I need to make sure that I'm strong enough to take care of myself and my wife in any situation. And it kind of started there. I just went back to the gym. And the goal was, can I lift myself out of any pit I fall in, let's say.
Yeah.
And then can I lift myself and my wife out? And, as this whole thing was going on, I found a love for fitness. I started following people in the fitness industry, different YouTube channels, and as much as I'd follow any Warhammer, people in the community or channels or podcasts, and then found a love for it. So and then it went to be like, okay, well now I'm not worried about being able to pick up my wife. I can easily do that. She's my warm up weight now. Now it's like, okay, well now I can deadlift 405 pounds and kind of work towards 500. I can squat this much, and it really, after that, it became sort of a fun thing. Like strength, it's hard to say, like even like moderate strength, like that I have, like it feels like a superpower. Like looking at things that I can just like, my casual friends that don't work out, like I can just walk over and pick something up and move, and they're just like, how did you move that? And like, I picked it up, and it's just like, you don't realize just like how functional it is to just be moderately stronger, and then the quality of life improvement. Like, like sometimes, some people realize like that, they can't squat down to get stuff easily, whereas I can sit in a squat position for a long period of time. So it's, it's finding a love for that, and then, working on the nutrition. And this past year at Nova, I meal prepped my lunches. I went out to dinner with friends each night, but just meal prepping my lunches, which was just some salad and some tuna. And I felt full, and I didn't feel groggy. Cognitively aware, wasn't slowed down from like, eating pizza, and which nothing wrong. Pizza's delicious, but
yeah, you just felt better for not eating it, three
right.
times in 2 days, that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely something to be said for staying hydrated and everything else when you're at these events.
Yes.
Getting enough sleep, which is never enough at an event, but making sure you get some.
Yeah.
And it's not just to perform well on the table or anything like that. Although there is, if you're hyper competitive, then there's a definite advantage to doing that. It's making sure you can enjoy a 4-day time away and not feel like you're running on empty for 3 days of it.
Yeah, sometimes it's just, go to bed by midnight because you're going to be up by 6 as opposed to staying up like till 1, because you'll get more out of the morning of the next day instead of spending 3 hours trying to drink coffee or energy drinks to get woken up.
And everyone's got their different limits. I know that I can push pretty hard on those kind of things, and also know that I've got an 8-hour flight home, and probably a few hours that day as well. So I've got this whole decompression day where I can't really do anything anyway. So I can sleep when I'm dead almost. So I do an element of that, but also trying to make sure that it's not 3 o'clock in the morning going to bed. It's again a reasonable time If it's 12 or 1, what have you, depending on what's going on. But definitely not staying up through all the hours. And I don't drink as well, which makes a big difference, apparently, because I've never drunk. So, no alcohol, I think, certainly helps when you're trying to get up at 6:30 in the morning. But,
Actually, that's the goal I'm trying to do myself, is to, I don't drink heavily, but I'm going to try to just cut it out, because it's that concept of, no one's ever going to pressure anyone to drink. Like, I can go hang out and drink water and soda with people having a few cocktails, and it's fine. No one's going to be like, they'll offer because we're a nice community, but they're never going to be like, oh, well, you have to drink, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like, it's a concept of, well, I know I have these goals in the fitness, and alcohol, while, it tastes good and I have enjoyed it, it's not going to help me there. And it's only going to make me feel better at these events by not doing it. So I'm going to try it, see how that goes. So it's little things like that. It's like, when I'm eating a salad, I can promise you I'm never always happy to be eating a salad, but I'm not eating a salad because it tastes good. I'm eating it because I'm trying to lose 5 pounds, but
yeah. No, I appreciate that. And again, as I say, everyone is going to have different levels on that. Choose the level you want to be at. And some people ignore this anyway, but I feel there is a definite, a real, very strong advantage to finding a level and choosing it. Now, I was overweight for quite a long time and lost a lot of weight this year, the last just over 12 months. Some of which through illness, wasn't really my own fault, but my own kind of ideal way of doing things. But the difference is staggering, the confidence it brings and everything else. And I don't go to the gym. I wish I could enjoy working out or going running or anything, but I just don't. I'm terrible. Mm-hmm. But so I went to Slimming World in the end and lost the weight that way. And that worked for me. Haven't been back since because of reasons and stuff, and I'm got to try and get that balance right. But it does make a big difference. And you obviously you blog about this because you tweet about this because Twitter is and what you're getting up to. But when did you start using Strength Hammer as a name?
I'd say in the past 9 months, I kind of switched and rebranded and went that way. Because I just really want to incorporate the two hobbies I have together. And there's a WhatsApp chat now that there's a bunch of us within the hobby, and, it's probably the only chat with all these hobbyists in it that we really don't talk about hobbies. So like anytime something, if there's, and people discussing things on Twitter, and it's taken over Twitter, and for good or for ill, it's like you go into that chat, we're just talking about like going to the gym, nutrition.
Yeah. It's focused.
So there's great people, like there's Hayden Walker in there. He worked with me. He is a personal trainer, so he has nutrition coaching, and he can actually train. That's the other thing. Like I'm still learning this myself. So I've had a few people say like, "Hey, can you give me like a fitness program?" I'm like, I can point you to people who know what they're doing.
Sure.
But we did a challenge and we had a great time with that. But yeah, like I really switched over just to kind of bring it all together. Like, because if you look, it's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to paint models. I'm going to lift weights. It's kind of fun bringing the two things together because I think it's a very different types of concepts as far as fine, minute painting with small micro muscles, and then using your macro muscles to move weight and get healthier. Sure. But what I've kind of learned, and if you look back, I have a kind of ongoing series on my blog called Life Lessons in Wargaming, which in hindsight maybe isn't the most accurate title, but it really talks about mindsets of people that I follow, and interviews I've seen of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, different athletes. But really how they set goals and how they accomplish and tackle different things is the exact same mindset that we all use to paint an army to win an event. You know, like you want to prepare, you want to make sure that you're not leaving anything out. You know, you need to set goals, you need to have deadlines, and it all just ties together so perfectly. And really, like, you can do anything in life with that type of mindset, and you know, obviously, like, adjusting your lifestyle to something sustainable. And like I said, really the goal for me for doing it is I just want to live longer and roll dice more. So
sure. But putting it up on Twitter, that led to more people, more connections. This WhatsApp group grew from putting it up on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I must admit, I saw it all kicking off. Stormcast Strong and all that as well, that was out there as a hashtag, and it's what we need as humans generally is if we see someone doing something, we find it much easier to jump on with them, and so we have this kind of acceptance that, oh yeah, that's cool, Chuck's doing it, maybe I can do it. Which is, it's kind of crazy that we have to think that way sometimes, but that's the way our brains work, don't they?
Yeah, and I'm not immune to it too. I see people doing things, I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that too. Something I never really think of, but I do hope. Like I said, I encourage. I think some people feel that they don't, like, they'll post their fitness stuff, but they don't really use the Stormcast Strong hashtag, which. Like, I think people think that it's like, oh, that's Chuck's hashtag. I'm like, no, I want to see people who are into 40K go Space Marine Strong. Like, that's not a hashtag for me. That's a hashtag for just anybody who wants to just get better. It's like, I'm building a gym in my basement, so it's going to be half of it's going to be a hobby area, half of it's going to be lifting. I'm going to call it the Anvil of Apotheosis because that's where Stormcast get reforged. Sure. But someone could do it in a 40K and call their gym the Rubicon, and they're going to become Primaris Marines and beating Space Marine Strong. It's ultimately, like, my goal in anything is I want people to be happy. I want them to be healthy. And like, I always aim towards positivity, which, like I said, you mentioned earlier, I post a lot of Taylor Swift gifts because I listen to her music a lot, to listen to pop music, because it just makes me happy because I'm a positive person. More so than not, so.
Yep. There's nothing wrong with a bit of Taylor.
Yeah.
Definitely nothing wrong with it, and I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. But yeah, it's having that. It's amazing how, as I said, just having that place to go is such an encouragement. Where you're not going to be judged if you put up. From other people who are searching that hashtag aren't going to be like, you're not here, you're not, you're not strong enough to be part of this group. That's not what it's about. It's about improvement. It's about people who are making whatever effort is to achieve whatever goal they want to achieve. And it was great. I remember seeing it come out, and people were jumping on it from all over the shop. And there were people who were saying, like, I've been meaning to do this for years. And I've been meaning to lose that weight for years, and I'm still, I'm always going to be on that fight because I'm not naturally that size. But not with the way I like to eat naturally. I'm blaming my body for it. But you need that kind of cool. That's something that someone else is doing it. They can drag me in their wake, and every now and then someone will look at me and go, blimey, Greg, you did that. I'm going to go and join Slimming World. And I'm like, cool, man, give it a go, crack on. And I haven't, there's been no, I don't feel like I've done anything special for that. I've gone out and done what I've done. It's just nice to have it all there. So, as we said, Warhammer Heroes, you got that, was that this year?
This past year at Adepticon, yes.
Excellent. And I've been talking actually on another show about how I think Warhammer Heroes, I think GW could maybe have a page somewhere for it. Trying to find out information on it is not great. You have your name, I assume, on a board in Warhammer World?
Yeah, I don't know if they're up yet for this year's
sure.
Indoctrinees, but they do put it up in Bugman's Bar. I think there might be a page on the Warhammer community page.
There might be.
It's not easily accessible. You only ever really see it in a link whenever they talk about Warhammer Heroes in an article.
Yeah, I had a quick look, and all I could find was articles about winners. So I didn't see, and there might well be. I might not have looked properly. When you got that, what were you given that for?
So I was given it. It was actually a lot of people like in the local tri-state area around me that nominated me. One of my club members got together with. This is all what he told me.
Sure.
Got together with club members and then people that he knew that I knew, kind of within this area, and they all submitted story or like something about me, and then he compiled that and put it together, and then that's what really like triggered, I think, because like I mean I do a lot for the community overall globally, but so do lots of other people. So I think I really think it was just like the fact that I do all that stuff, but I'm trying to grow and improve my local club, and all those guys. I mean, it was like teary-eyed when they let me read what they wrote about me, because I care just as much about them as I do about anything else.
Yeah.
So really, I think that's the main reason why I was selected, because it's not about having followers on Twitter or making a name for yourself or doing this or that. It's about caring for people who aren't able to make Warhammer happen for themselves, and giving them that place for them to escape for like one day at a time, and just trying to make sure that you do everything you can so that it's a positive experience for them on every level. So
yeah. So you're saying that your gamers in your local area told you that and showed you what they wrote in. With the process when you go to Games Workshop, what you get an email, a letter? Do they tell you much there?
So I didn't know that my club submitted for me. I didn't know anything until Adam Hall, who I think kind of like handles the organization of that, emailed me, and I found out that I won.
Sure.
And apparently they also let the people that nominated you aware too, like, hey, he won.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, so like I found out I won through that email, and then I put it into like my local chat with like my club, and just like, so I just won Warhammer Hero, and then they threw a surprise party for me that next club day. They let me read everything that they wrote, submitted, and it was, like I said, it was very overwhelming. So I didn't really know about any of it until I found out that I had it. So
oh wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Because this is one thing I've got with it. The assumption from the outside is I don't know about you and your local game group. I see you. I didn't actually know that you were heavily involved with that that group meeting for GW and the American scene. But I see you at Adepticon, and you're involved with Nova. See you with Strength Hammer, and the assumption is then that it comes from that. Every winner that I've heard of, I've known what they do because I've either met them or met someone who knows them, who's talked about them. I think it would be lovely if GW could put that out somewhere. Oh, so yeah. I think that's something they could do.
Yeah, like I said, there's so many great people. I was so happy to meet with them, the other award winners that were there at Adepticon, to make more connections with these people and find out more about their stories, because more so than not just talking to them, it's like I said, I think I was selected and nominated because of what I try to do around my local area. They're the reason, like my local club's the reason I'm into this hobby, really.
Sure.
And I want to make sure that I can continue, and then I hope I raise someone else who's gonna one day I'll be the crotchety old guy going, these darn kids changing everything, and
too right.
He comes to me and and he's leading, and he's out there in the community globally, and doing things to help further this game and this hobby.
Well, I think it's good for people to know as well, because they see it's easy to look down the name. And so, Chuck Moore, he's on Twitter with Strength Hammer. He runs international events. He's got a blog that's up there. Cole Tuttle runs the independent characters and And you got the Aussies who run podcasts and a fair few of those names. Dave Witek out there who's podcasting and it's very easy to assume that they're winning because they're big names, therefore they're attracting more people writing in and that. But, I think it's probably, fairly obvious that Carl would have got his just for the charity work he did for the fires, for sending that out. You don't have to be Carl Tuttle to do that. It helps that he's got a voice and everything else, maybe, but he, out of all the people that do podcasts, he was the one who stood up for that instance and did it. And you've got it for what you do. So if people are listening and are like, well, actually, Fred down here has been running our club for 12 years, even when there were only 4 people in there, rebuilt it, and he doesn't play half the game systems, but he's painted all the scenery for them. Then there's every chance that guy can be recognised for what they do for the hobby. It's not all about the superstar lights, those kind of personalities. It's about the ones who are working hard as well. It is. To your point, you're right. It is easy to assume like, oh, well, I know this person for this, so they must have won it for that. And in some cases, that could not be the case. There could be someone who's just that's just what they do, but it affects a lot of people, and then people wrote in that it's they saw fit to award that. But yeah, it's about more than that. It's just caring. It's just wanting to impact people's lives in a positive way, and not worrying about doing it for any reason other than just to put a smile on someone's face and give them a hobby that they're going to carry with them the rest of their lives. And then like I said, they'll grow from there. Like a lot of people in my local club now come to Adepticon, come to Nova, are meeting people that I've talked about, and it's great. It's just wonderful to see that sort of growth within my community, and just knowing that there's so many people out there doing that. So yeah, if you have someone in your community that is really making everyone better, because of what they do, like, you absolutely nominate them, because it's easy to assume it's just a popularity contest, but it very much isn't. No, I think GW should be applauded for that. I think, as I say, I think they should. They do say it when they get around to the period where they put all the information out. But I think some note, I say, of why people get their awards would go a long way to kind of encouraging people to nominate those people behind the scenes. Awesome. 100%. Excellent. I think we're probably done there. It's been really nice to chat.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on just to chat.
No, it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all gravy. Fingers crossed, I'm going to be at Nova next year. So for my first Nova. So I'm going to have to talk to you at some point about how to do Nova and how to survive it.
Yep, happy to help. Like I said, it's a great experience, and like I said, it's easy to assume that like LVO, Adepticon, and Nova are all the same thing, but they're all three are very unique and special in their own way. So I would love to see you out there at Nova, and I'll gladly help you.
Awesome.
not a worry.
I'll need the help. Excellent. Cheers, Chuck, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Take care.